Welcome along, episode 1 of Summit S33ker with your boy Chris Eversley. It has been a journey, and this is something that I want to first start off with just saying thank you to everybody out there. A true heartfelt thank you. The texts, the calls, the DMs, however you're reaching out, I cannot tell you how appreciative I am and how much it has been driving me just to get better every day and to continue to stack the good days no matter how hard it is. So before we hop into any of my journey, a heartfelt thank you to everybody out there. I realize I have a lot of y'all to get back to still, but this is something that has really shown me how much y'all mean to me, and the concept of internet friends, real friends, people I haven't spoken to in years. I can't thank y'all enough. So before anything, thank you for the last time. Appreciate you all, and I'll speak to you all as I continue to kind of work through this. But this idea of Summit S33ker just comes from the journey that this is going to be, quite honestly. A little background about myself: high level athlete for years, collegiately at the Division I level, and went on to play professionally throughout Asia and Europe for 5 years, and spent my summers in LA playing in the Drew League. So just a high level athlete for honestly 2 decades, and retired in 2019 and started my big boy job in corporate and in tech and all these different things. But athletes, they just keep want to do what they want to do. So granted, naturally I kept playing basketball, and in a men's league, probably 3 to 4 nights a week, kind of just still getting that cardio in. You know how it is, where you don't really want to think about going to the gym. You don't want to get on a treadmill. You don't want to get on a bike. You don't want to suffer. But something like a basketball is just, it's mindless cardio. You can get out there, burn some calories, and go about your business. So just setting the precedent for what all of this is, basketball has always been an outlet for me. And it's a way to connect with new people, especially living here in LA, playing around different parts of the city, getting to meet new people, new connections. I love bringing people together. So anytime I can meet new people and make new connections, it's just more people in my network that I can learn about, learn from, connect with. And that's something that's always really driven me to stay so people oriented. So with that being said, basketball leagues, this summer I was in 4 of them, and a lot of basketball, especially for somebody who's retired. But about a month ago, I was playing with some friends in a league over in Santa Monica, and I was getting ready, honestly, to go on a birthday trip to New York City, go see my friends, go see my niece for the first time, really just have a great time out there, kind of just de-stressing from an eventful year. I was laid off from my job back in February, started kind of leaning into a company that I had started, Overtime Solutions. Really hadn't gotten any traction, but it just kept knocking on doors, finished internal structuring, then got the momentum to go to market from a marketing standpoint and social media, learning about all of that stuff. And just kind of really tried to learn how to become a better business person, a better person in general. And as we kind of talk through this, you'll kind of see what kind of person I am. But honestly, I'm just all about making sure people are maximizing their opportunities, which is honestly the entire point of Summit S33ker. So fast forward back to September 18th, and routine game in Santa Monica, again, as I mentioned, out there with the fellas, running up and down the court, hooping. And again, my main thing when I go out there is don't get hurt. Just get my cardio, burn my 1,000 calories, go home, and that's it. However, tonight was particularly different. So routine play and transition, driving down to the basket, and I'm at full speed, dribbling the ball, trying to get to the paint. And I take one step, and next thing I know, I feel my knee come out of place. And I kid you not, it's like a movie scene where anybody out there who has those flicker cameras as a kid where they would rotate the little films, it was like that, where I looked down, I saw my knee get dislocated, it goes black, and then it comes back, I see my knee kind of dangle a little bit, goes black, Then it comes back again, and then my knee snaps back into place. Now, the most traumatic injury I've ever had was a broken cheekbone that I suffered when I was in Germany. I caught an elbow in practice, zygomatic fracture, had surgery, the worst absolute headache and migraine of my entire life. But again, fix it, surgery, no big deal, played in a mask for 6 weeks, and that was kind of just isolated incident. I was out of the hospital in, I think, maybe 4 or 5 days. Was able to be out for my birthday at the time. Ironically, this is something that's happened twice now before birthdays, but I knew that this was different immediately. And it was something that I knew as somebody who's been an athlete for over 20 years, you know when you can go home and rest something or when you got to go straight to the emergency room. And this was an emergency situation. So as soon as I kind of came to, everybody in the gym ran over. They knew it was bad. I knew it was bad. At the time, I'm thinking, okay, like I dislocated my knee, tore my ACL, things that essentially happen, unfortunately, being an athlete. But I know just being around athletics and being in practices and seeing teammates who've torn their ACL before, it's a lot of pain, but it's not associated with complete numbness of your leg. So that is why I got a little worried. So I pretty much got down on the floor, got helped up by people that were in the gym and the other team we were playing against, got over to the sideline and just sat down and was literally could not feel my leg. So fortunately, I had people there just that I know from that gym. They already got people on the phone. They got the ambulance, they got the 911, they got the ambulance. They were about to call them. But fun fact, if you can save money by not taking an ambulance and you have somebody there to take you to the ER, do that. It will save you approximately $2,800. Just a little tip I'll kind of give y'all on how this all works from a medical standpoint. So fortunately, my girlfriend was at the game and we literally just loaded me into the back of her Subaru, laid the seats down, and just drove right to the hospital, straight to the ER, no questions asked. And luckily for anybody who lives in LA, we were on the 10 East going from Santa Monica to Culver City, and I've never seen anybody weave in and out of traffic besides anybody on Fast and Furious. So shout out to my lady. Thank you for getting me to the hospital in probably record time on the 10 East in the PM hours. So we get there and essentially I'll right to the ER. They bring out the wheelchair. I go straight back. And being in the ER is a very traumatizing experience because I myself am going through something at the current moment. However, when you go into the ER, there are people in there who are also going through other life-threatening things. So I get into the ER, people are literally screaming. I don't know if these people have been shot. I don't know what they have going on, but they're in obvious pain. And it was very unsettling because here I am, normally very calm, cool, and reserved. I cannot keep myself together. I'm just kind of freaking out. Again, I can't feel my leg. The nurses come in, the doctors come in, they run some tests. And essentially, what I had done was something that none of my 4 surgeons had ever seen before in their lives, which is completely insane to say. But for any of my basketball people out there, essentially what I had done to my knee and leg was very similar to what Sean Livingston did to his leg back in the day. And for anybody who doesn't know what I'm talking about, don't watch the video. You can easily just Google it, look at text of what happened, and that's pretty much good to go. It's something that's a very gruesome video. I don't like to tell people to watch it, but if you do go watch it, you've been warned. But something very similar. And at the time, I get in there, and again, pretty much limited blood flow to my leg. So from a medical stance, what I did was I had dislocated my knee, which had blocked my popliteal artery, which is actually an artery that comes from your femoral artery and is responsible for blood flow to your foot. So I had blocked that off just above my calf, and it had been diverted, the blood flow, to two collateral ligaments that were very faintly pouring blood to my leg. But the Doppler machine came out, there was limited pulse. So now, for anybody who's familiar with the body, when you don't have excess blood flow to a different part of your body, it is at risk of amputation, it's at risk of death. There's a lot of things that come into play at this point. So once that happens, I'm absolutely freaking out. I'm going from, playing basketball 2 or 3 times a week, being in run clubs, doing this, and this. And here I am literally fighting to save my leg at this point, to being immobile, to just honestly, I didn't know how to take it. And a lot of things were going through my mind. My mom came down, she drove in the middle of the night, which she obviously does not like to do. So all of us were in the pretty much, and I'm recording this live from the hospital, so you might hear some stuff in the background, but my mom and my girlfriend are in there with me. All the doctors are in there. The surgeon comes in. As I mentioned, he puts on the Doppler to basically check and see what pulses you have. So there's a Doppler system, and then there's also an ultrasound, which a lot of people just know from pregnancies, but they use an ultrasound on a foot to kind of see ligament damage and see what's going on. So as soon as that happens, he's like, okay, and this is a surgeon of, I'm not sure, at least 15 to 20 years. He says, I am extremely worried about this because you don't have blood flow to your foot, or at least enough for me not to be concerned. So as soon as he says that, they rush me upstairs to get a CAT scan. They need to see what the situation is in the leg. And the CAT scan comes back, structural damage, dislocated knee, as I mentioned before. And pretty much that is what it kind of tells us from the structural standpoint. But from the actual standpoint of everything that I did, as I mentioned, the popliteal artery was pretty much cut off, and not cut off in terms of anything inside my leg, but it had just been blocked because of the trauma that when my knee came out of place, what actually ended up happening was the knee comes out and it pretty much cleared out all the ligaments and arteries in one way before it snapped back in. So imagine if I walked into your house and just knocked everything off the shelf and then put my hand back. That's essentially what happened with my leg. So all of the ligaments, all of the knee arteries, everything, nerves pretty much affected. So I spent that night pretty much on painkillers, but in extreme pain, figuring out, going back and forth. Oh my God, what is going to happen? I just want to keep my leg. And I'm getting to the point where I'm not usually super emotional, but this point in my life where somebody's telling me at 33 years old, or at this point, 32 years old, being a week before my 33rd birthday, that I could potentially lose my leg over an injury from basketball. I'm like, there's no way. So they checked me in the hospital, they put me in a room, and then the doctor comes up and he's like, hey, I'm gonna monitor you over the night. We'll see how things go, but I'm gonna look around, read some literature, talk to some people, get people on the phone who may need to be here if we need to do emergency surgery. And I'm like, all right, cool, doc. But again, last thing I want is to lose my leg. And then I go up to the room. I'm in the hospital bed. They got me on IVs and all that stuff. So I'm just like, all right, let's get this thing going. Can't sleep much, but my mom stays with me that first night. And the next morning around 5 o'clock, the doctor comes in. He's like, I'm going back and forth all night. And so my gut is telling me that we got to do this surgery. Now, the thing about this particular injury is there's a time window, because what happens is if you have what's called compartment syndrome, you can actually end up losing your leg or your limb if you don't operate within this window of 10 to 12 hours. So again, this injury happened around 8:30 p.m. on Tuesday night. This conversation is being had 5 a.m. Wednesday morning. Chris, we got to go to surgery. We got to do this. Something with this is all the literature, all the academia is telling me, do it, and we'll just let the chips fall where they may. So with that being said, the ball starts rolling. and I start getting prepared for surgery. My mom's freaking out again, super early in the morning, but we got to do what we got to do. And that is something that I think is one of the silver linings of all of this. And we'll get into other kind of philosophical things later on, but this background story is essentially just me wanting to give you information on what actually happened. But 6 o'clock comes, they come to get me, I sign in consent forms, and again, at this time, I'm thinking I'm going in, all right, they're going to fix whatever they need to fix, and that's pretty much it. And they take me down to the pre-operation area, so I'm in there with a bunch of other patients, down there with all the nurses, and other anesthesiologists. Everybody's coming to talk to me to say, hey, this is what's going on, this is what we're going to do. And in the process, they actually bring over the orthopedic surgeon, because for anybody who's familiar with sports or just medicine in general, your orthopedic surgeons or doctors are people that are going to be responsible for ligaments, joints, all that type of stuff. So you see a lot of them in the sports world in general. So the orthopedic doctor comes over to me and he says, hey, Chris, we're going to need to put an external fixator on your leg to basically keep things in place, because we don't want your leg to slip and impact the bypass that you're potentially going to have when you go in here. So again, 6:30 in the morning, I'm just kind of, hey, whatever we got to do to save the leg, bro, I don't care. So I signed the consent form. I did not know at the time what an external fixator was, but I know now, and we'll come back to that because I'll show you exactly what that is soon. But it's a beast of a set of hardware. But sign a consent form, and they're like, all right, all the doctors talked. So going into surgery, I knew I was going to have 3 different surgeons from different disciplines taking a look at my situation. I was going to have my vascular surgeon, who was going to be doing a bypass using one of my veins in my leg to do the bypass to connect the artery to the leg to restore the blood flow. So my vascular surgeon was there to do that. My orthopedic surgeon was there to install the external fixator, and the plastic surgeon was there to do what's called a nerve exploration. Because remember me knocking all the stuff off the counter or the shelf? Part of that was my peroneal nerve. Now, the peroneal nerve is responsible for sensation in your foot. It allows you to dorsiflex your toes, and mainly it's responsible for sensation along the top of your foot, and it allows you to flex your toes back towards your body, so like this. So you can gas pedal, but without peroneal nerve motor function, you can't pull your feet back. So those are the 3 things that I was about to go into, and the surgery starts at 7 a.m. They roll me into the operating room. I look up, all my surgeons are there. I look at the table, I see all the tools, and next thing you know, I am lights out. So that is part 1 of the recovery vlog, and I don't want to leave y'all on a cliffhanger, but I also want to tell a good story and make sure everybody kind of enjoys this. And just to let y'all know, I'm also a person who just loves telling stories, and we'll have a lot of fun with this, but super serious situation, but it's something that I think is something that needs to be told, and I want it to feel engaging. I want it to be worth your time. So part 2 will be about when I wake up from surgery and the things that essentially have transpired in the first week, because that's how this is going to be broken up. The first week of post-op, and just the entire feeling of the emotions, a little bit more information on how things look, how things feel, my family, my relationship, everything that is directly impacted by going through at the time, limb salvaging surgery. But come to find out, when surgery began, the quote from my doctors was, it was a lot more complicated when we got in there than what we thought from the outside. So part 2, come back. Please tune in. You don't want to miss the rest of this journey. Again, I want this to be a lot of fun for us, but I want it to be true. I want it to be honest. I want to be vulnerable with it all. And please, this is on YouTube, so comment, like, subscribe, share the story with people who may be struggling, and I'll see y'all for part 2. Peace.